Do you want me or do you not? Not. Well, anyway, I and so many other Lana fans, and not even Lana fans, just fans of any type of drama on Instagram, have been completely wrapped up in the whole Lana tea that's been going on for the past few days. And after I saw that, I was like, yes, I need to talk about this. So I'd like to open up a conversation with everyone that has any type of interest. So yeah, if you're interested in Lana Del Rey, if you're interested in internet drama, if you're interested in white privilege, if you're interested in any conversations about racism, racial inequality, racially insensitive rhetoric, then please keep watching. You're gonna love this, and let's dive in. As someone who used to refer to herself as the #1 Lana fan in the entire world, and being a woman of color, I think I have a unique and important opinion about all of this. I see the sides of the fandom and I see the sides of outside of the fandom. I see Lana Del Rey as a character and a beautiful world that I would love to live in, that I do live in when I listen to her music. But I also see Elizabeth Grant as a person that has a platform with 16 million followers and young impressionable followers, and I do see the importance of explaining some of the things that have been going on, or kind of analyzing what's been going on. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, Lana Del Rey posted on her Instagram on May 20th a question for the culture. She said, now that Doja Cat, Ariana, Camila, Cardi B, Kehlani, and Nicki Minaj and Beyonce have had #1 with songs about being sexy, wearing no clothes, cheating, etc., can I please go back to singing about being embodied, feeling beautiful by being in love even if the relationship is not perfect, or dancing for money, or whatever I want without being crucified or saying that I'm glamorizing abuse? I'm fed up with female writers and alt singers saying that I glamorize abuse when in reality I'm just a glamorous person singing about the realities of what we are all now seeing are very prevalent emotionally abusive relationships all over the world. With all of the topics women are finally allowed to explore, I just want to say over the last 10 years, I think it's pathetic that my minor lyrical exploration detailing my sometimes submissive or passive roles in my relationships has often made people say I've set women back hundreds of years. Let this be clear. I'm not a feminist, but there has to be a place in feminism for women who look and act like me. The kind of woman who says no, but men hear yes. The kind of women who are slated mercilessly for being their authentic, delicate selves. The kind of women who get their own stories and voices taken away from them by stronger women or by men who hate women. I've been honest and optimistic about the challenging relationships I've had. Newsflash, that's just how it is for many women. And that was sadly my experience up until the point that those records were made. So I just wanted to say it's been a long 10 years of bullshrimp reviews up until recently, and I learned a lot from them. But I also feel it really paved the way for other women to stop putting on a happy face and to just be able to say whatever the hell they wanted to in their music. Unlike my experience, where if I even expressed a note of sadness in my first 2 records, I was deemed literally hysterical, as though it was literally the 1920s. Anyways, none of this has anything to do about much, but I'll be detailing some of my feelings in the next 2 books of poetry, mostly the second one, with Simon & Schuster. Yes, I'm still making my personal reparations with the proceeds of the books to my choice of Native American foundations, which I'm very happy about. I'm sure there will be tinges of what I've been pondering in my new album that comes out September 5th. Thanks for reading. Happy quarantining. Alright, so let's dive into that, because that had touches on feminism. She mentions a lot of very popular artists. She talks about her past work being accused of glamorizing abuse and domestic violence. And she literally poses a question to the culture, whatever that means. I'm assuming the music culture, pop culture in general. So let's begin. I think other longtime die-hard Lana stans will understand when I say that the last few days have been just absolutely crazy for the Lana fandom. We don't get that much attention from like the outside world outside of the Lana fandom. Lana doesn't post that much. She's not that active of a celebrity this era that she's in right now, which is kind of a non-existent era. So this was kind of a big, huge whirlwind for us. I'm not even gonna lie, I'm a little bit excited. Even though it's crazy and it's ridiculous, it's interesting, it's exciting. We finally have something to talk about. I have been accused of being a Lana purist in the past, but I call her out where she needs to be called out now that I'm an adult. When I was younger, I used to say that I would literally die for her, but I think it's important for us to be able to criticize our faves. I mean, celebrities are not infallible, and everything she does isn't perfect, as it's been so hard for me to come to terms with. It's very important for us to, as the general public, as lovers of music, as lovers of Lana Del Rey, to criticize her where she needs to be criticized. When she said, "Can I please go back to writing that music?" it made me excited because I think me and a lot of die-hard early Lana stans have always had a special place in our heart for the Born to Die and Ultraviolence eras. Not that the Honeymoon and Lust for Life eras were necessarily disappointing, but they were extremely different, especially to her fans that have been standing her since Born to Die. So yeah, that got me excited to hear her say, "Can I please go back to that old style of music?" because that's what brought me in. That's the music that I still listen to today. Of course, I love Norman. Lust for Life, I didn't like. I'm sorry. Of course, I still listen to some of the songs, but I didn't like it that much. But it was interesting that she said that because she did mention when she made the Lust for Life album that her past records were made for herself and that that record was made for her fans, which I think shows there's such a huge difference between the styles from her first two records and the records after that. A lot of people were wondering why she stopped making the music like how she used to, and I think it's interesting that she kind of just told us that it was because of the critics. I think that's sad, and I think that she shouldn't have had to been made to feel that she had to change her music just to appease the critics, because I think her real fans don't care what the critics say. They want what they want, and they want what she makes and what Lana produces. And yeah, so after reading the comments on the post and listening to opinions of my friends and my friends of color and seeing the comments of color, let's just get into it. I think that her main aim of the post got completely skewed. Her main point of the first initial post that she posted was that she is happy to see that women can now start speaking more on sexual empowerment, sexual liberation, and just more sex positive themes in their music, and it's being received a little bit more positively now. I don't think she was necessarily comparing herself to those artists, to Doja Cat, Beyonce, Nicki Minaj. It's just so obvious, and I think, actually I know Lana knows that her music is not really comparable to those artists' music. It's apples and oranges. One is not better than the other. Music is subjective, art is subjective. I think she wasn't necessarily comparing herself or her music to their music. She was more trying, emphasis on trying, to compare the public responses those artists got from their more sexual songs recently to the negative response from the public that she got from her more sexual, provocative songs back in 2012 and 2013 with Born to Die and Ultraviolence, her first two official records that came out. Back when Lana released Born to Die, she was absolutely crucified in the press, especially in the American press. People were saying that she was super anti-feminist, that she was glorifying abuse, that she, as she said, setting back women hundreds of years, which is, I think, ridiculous. I don't think that when she posted that she necessarily anticipated the backlash she was gonna get. I think specifically what kind of blew it all up was the fact that she mentioned those artists in the first place, especially the fact that those artists, 5 out of 6 of the artists she mentioned, are women of color. It's not lost on me, it shouldn't be lost on you, but was definitely lost on Lana. That being said, I do think it was a mistake for her to even mention the artists in the first place, because if you're gonna mention artists like Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, they have such huge, giant, die-hard, cutthroat fandoms that when they see their fave's name in anyone else's post and any celebrity's post, they're gonna go off. No matter what the post is actually about, they're gonna go off. And her post was a little bit problematic, so like that kind of just fueled the fire. I think if she hadn't mentioned their names in the first place, it would have been less of a backlash. The problem isn't that she named black artists. The problem is the words that she used to describe the themes that they sing about compared to the words that she used to describe the themes that she presents in her own. She uses words like wearing no clothes, effing, cheating to describe the women's music, but then when she talks about her own music, she describes it as feeling embodied, feeling beautiful, empowerment, dancing, you know? I do believe that she didn't have intentions of using those words with more positive connotation to describe her own music and use more negative connotation to describe the music of the other artists that she did. Racism isn't always...
I'm racist, I hate black people.
...is in the little things. It's the little microaggressions. The way that she uses those negative words, wearing no clothes, effing, cheating, to describe the women of color's music compared to the way that she describes her music does show a little bit about her ignorance on racial issues, that it didn't even come into her mind the races of the women that she mentioned and how her fans, especially some of her fans of color, were going to receive that. I don't think she had negative intentions or cruel intentions. She herself said that those are some of her favorite artists. The fact that it didn't even come into her mind just shows that she has so much privilege that race doesn't even cross her mind as it does for women of color every second of every day. The fact that she kind of alluded to her sort of paving the way for these women to make the music that they do today left a bad taste in some people's mouths, because if you look at it on paper, it's a white, thin, cis woman saying that she paved the way for these black women, which she, in my opinion, didn't. I think if we're gonna say that any women artists paved the way for the artists that we know and love today, we would be talking about Billie Holiday, Aretha Franklin, Nina Simone, Tina Turner, Beyonce. Those are the people who actually paved the way. That being said, Lana Del Rey, when she came out, she was in and made a genre all of her own. She was in a league of her own. Nobody could touch her. She was so unique, and she still is so unique. So I think on that point, sonically, yes, she definitely influenced a lot of music that we see today, especially in like the alternative style of songs, but I wouldn't necessarily go as far to say that her music in and of itself was what paved the way for women to be able to, as she said, talk about whatever the hell they want in their music. So I think at r.content on Instagram had a really good comment. He said, "A white woman complaining that feminist spaces don't make room for the white woman and her delicateness is literally the opposite of acknowledging the reality of how white womanhood basically owns femininity and the concepts of being a woman." Yes. Mainstream feminism literally focuses on everything about that to the detriment of women of color. White womanhood is literally seen as the ideal because of its delicacy, fragility, and emotionality. Lana, you built your whole image off of this, and mainstream feminism heralded you as an icon because of it. Just because you have criticism coming your way doesn't mean feminist spaces aren't. Open dialogue itself is built on being able to critique one another. To be delicate doesn't excuse being fragile against valid criticisms. All you had to do was speak upon the unintended consequences of your lyrics glamorizing abuse and how your intention was not to promote abusive relationships, but instead That's so true. All she had to do was talk about that. If she wanted to talk about how her music wrongly accused of glorifying abuse, she should have talked about that, because I think that's an important conversation. That's a conversation I wanted to listen to her have for years. I would have loved for this to go in a positive way. So yeah, that's what she should have done, and he's right. All you had to do was speak upon the unintended consequences of your lyrics glamorizing abuse and how your intention was not to promote abusive relationships, but instead you prove your defense by saying you're treated worse than black women in the music industry, and then rely on describing their music as cruder than yours, which is apparently so much more glamorous and profound and delicate. You had the right to defend yourself, I agree, but the way you did proves your entitlement. You could have done better. Yes, she could have done better. She is a white woman who has privilege and doesn't want to acknowledge it. That's not a new concept. But it's crazy because it's Lana Del Rey. Yes, so on that, there's absolutely a place in feminism for her, because feminism was literally made for women like her. I think for her to say such a statement like that without acknowledging the fact that historically feminism directly benefits women like her, the rich, white, thin, conventionally attractive cis woman. Although I do think her initial point at this point is kind of irrelevant, I do think it's important to say that yes, feminism should include truth that a woman is multidimensional and that they can be soft and hard and beautiful and fragile and strong all at the same time. What I find more interesting than her post is her response to the backlash. When white celebrities are being called out for their racially insensitive rhetoric, their response to that is extremely telling. Everybody makes mistakes, but how you come back from those mistakes and how you respond to people calling you out for your racial insensitivity, that's way more telling than the initial mistake or the initial post that she made. These responses are so indefensible and so telling of her white privilege and her lack of understanding of her white privilege that I was like, wow, I need to go into a completely different different direction with this video because I wanted to talk about the reason that she made the post and what she meant by the post. I think that point is kind of irrelevant at this point. When she made her responses, she kind of dug herself into a deeper hole, but her responses are so problematic, it's actually ridiculous. She commented under her post responding to everyone. It was something like, bro, don't ever bro call me a racist. Okay, then why? Tell us why. You know what I mean? She says, in my last and final note on everything, when I said people who look like me, I meant the people who don't look strong or necessarily smart, or like they're in control, etc. It's about advocating for a more delicate personality, not for a white woman. Thanks for the Karen comments though. Very helpful. See, I think that comment in itself is somewhat of a helpful and good clarification for what she meant. If she had said this along with an apology or at least a shred of willingness to learn from her followers of color, instead of saying that we're stupid, can't read, it would have been a more productive conversation for the culture. I'm going to put up her second post here responding. She says, a couple of final notes on my controversial post that's not controversial at all. Despite the feedback I've heard from several people that I mention in a complimentary way, whether it be Ariana or Doja Cat, I want to say that I remained firm in my clarity and stance in that what I was writing about was the importance of self-advocacy for the more delicate and often dismissed, softer female personality. And that there does have to be room for that type in what will inevitably become a new wave, third wave of feminism that is rapidly approaching. Just watch. Perhaps I could have given more context to my post by mentioning the title of the second book that would be out next March called Behind the Iron Gates: Insights from an Institution. I'm sorry that the folks who I can only assume are super Trump/Pence supporters or hyper liberals or flip-flopping headline-grabbing critics can't read and want to make it a race war when in fact the issue was with female critics and female alternative artists who are dissociated from their own fragility and sexuality and berate more sexually liberated artists like myself and the women I mentioned. But in truth, making it about race says so much more about you than it does about me. You want the drama. You don't want to believe that a woman could be beautiful, strong, and fragile at the same time. Loving and all-inclusive by making personal reparations simply for the joy of doing it. Nothing new here in your reaction. Same as 10 years ago when a million think pieces came out about me feigning emotional fragility or lying about coming from no money when that was the truth. My aim and my message are clear, that I have control of my own story. If the women I mentioned don't want to be associated with me, that's absolutely fine by me. Okay, let's break this down. Can't read and want to make it a race war. Can't read and want to make it a race war. Here's the thing. When black people tell you that you're being racist or that you're even coming off as racist or racially insensitive, as a white person, listen. If there's anything that you should get out of this video at all is if you are any type of person and a black person is telling you that you're coming off racist, you're coming off racially insensitive, you need to listen. It is not up to you as a white person to decide what's racist and what's not. It is not up to you as a white person to decide what is deemed offensive and what's not offensive. They're not trying to start a race war for the most part. They're not trying to start a race war. They're not stupid. They can read. We can read. And we're reading what you said. So listen, learn, and move on. When you start to shut yourself off from having meaningful conversations like that, you made yourself stagnant. And for my fourth point. What she should have said was, wow, women have come such a long way in the music industry and I'm so happy it has become more accepted and less taboo for us to be able to sing about sexual liberation, sexual empowerment, and overall sex positive ideals in our music without being absolutely criticized and chastised by the media and the general public. Oh, and congrats to Megan Thee Stallion, Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, and Doja Cat for making history and becoming the first 4 black women to occupy the top 2 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 list. I'm gonna go back to singing about sex, money, and whatever the hell else I want because I feel more comfortable doing so now. Thank you to these artists for paving the way for me. Yes, her aim and her message were clear. To her. Having the audacity to say that we can't read and want to make it a race war, instead of saying there was misunderstanding, thank you for pointing out my potential racial insensitivities, and here is the actual point I was trying to make, ... just shows her unwillingness to learn. I think it was a missed learning opportunity for her. After such a post like that, after saying things like you want to make it a race war, you making it about race says so much more about you than it does about me, makes whatever she was trying to say in her first post completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter what she was trying to say. When she says things like that, nothing else matters. it's done. And I think for people to kind of write this off, or some of her diehard stans to write this off as cancel culture, is unproductive. She did make racially insensitive comments. She did use racially insensitive rhetoric, and she did full force, double down, respond back to those accusations with even more racially insensitive rhetoric. And that's not us saying,
okay, you made a mistake, you're canceled.
That's us saying, look what she said. And with a platform like hers with over 16 million followers on her Instagram alone, those 16 million followers being the reason that she is probably sitting in her beautiful mansion in Malibu being able to tweet this in her air-conditioned house, yes, she owes us an explanation. When I read comments like,
you don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't have to explain yourself. Everyone just wants to have drama.
No. When calling out white celebrities for their racially insensitive rhetoric and them being unwilling to learn or educate themselves, that's where the problem lies. The bottom line for me here is no, I don't think Lana Del Rey's a racist. Yes, I think she could have worded her post and her responses completely differently. Where are her friends? Are they really telling her that this is right to post? Were they really telling her that that was a good response to say? Like, who told her to do that? I saw a comment that said she should have just sent it to Chuck and called it a day, and absolutely, that was a post to be sent in your family group chat, not to 16 million people. What the heck is going on? We have not had this much action in the Lana fandom in years, which is why I'm kind of excited. Well, thank you for listening to me ramble on about this irrelevant but very relevant topic. I want to know what longtime real Lana Del Rey fans think about this. I want to know what people of color think about this. I want to know what everyone thinks about it. Let me know, talk to me, message me. I will talk to you in the comments. If anybody watches this, let me know what you think. And let's have a conversation about racial inequality in the music industry and white privilege and blissful ignorance of white people and white fragility in general. And if anybody's wondering, yes, I am still going to be listening to Lana for the rest of my life. I am so sorry. Literally nothing